Sanbonani, Southern Africa. Sanbonani, Far East Rand Catholic News. This is Gati Tijani, and as promised, I'm very excited that I have a very special guest with me this morning here in the Archdiocese of Johannesburg. As you can see, a beautiful backdrop to our cathedral, Christ the King Cathedral, and we're just wanting to have a conversation with His Eminence Untate Motlalipula. As we all know that last year in May, then Cardinal Robert Provost was among the conclave, and the exciting thing is that His Eminence Cardinal Stephen Brislin was part of the conclave. Out of the 133 that were there, only 18 were African, and the African amongst them was our Archbishop here in Johannesburg. So we just wanted to have a conversation and reflect with him on the year that has been. And Your Eminence, thank you for making the time to have a chat with us.
It's a great pleasure to be with you once again, and a great pleasure to be with all of your viewers. I give you greetings, and while it is a very beautiful view out here, it's also a little bit chilly today, so that's why I've got my jacket and my scarf on.
Yes, definitely. Your Eminence, I know when I juxtaposition, as I also reflect and read on Pope Leo XIV, you also have had a very busy time having to come to Johannesburg, getting used to Johannesburg, and all the different roles that you had to play, also being the administrator of Cape Town before we had our new Archbishop, so congratulations to him. So I just also would like to know if maybe you had the opportunity to sit down as we celebrated the 1 year anniversary of His Holiness Pope Leo. But the first question I have before we just talk about the year that has been for him was, spiritually and personally, how was it for you being part of this conclave, considering that it was your first time being part of it?
Thank you very much, Katja. And what you said about last year is very true. I'd just come to Johannesburg. I'd been here for a couple of months. In January, I'd taken over the presidency of the Bishops' Conference. I was still administrator of the Archdiocese of Cape Town, as you said, and also being a cardinal and a relatively new cardinal. So last year was really a very hectic year with the death of Pope Francis, and then, of course, going into the conclave. The conclave itself was certainly an absolutely unforgettable experience. Words cannot really describe it. The gravity of the moment, the sacredness of the moment, and having that enormous responsibility of having to elect the next leader of the Universal Catholic Church, of the number of Catholics these days is put at about 1.4 billion people throughout the world. And so you become very aware as the doors close of the Sistine Chapel of the enormous responsibility that rests on your shoulders. And it's a deeply spiritual process as well, because it's conducted through prayer, through invocation of the Holy Spirit, and during the whole process you're very conscious of the presence of God and very conscious of the need to continue to be faithful to the ministry, the life and the work of Jesus Christ, that this continues today and the responsibility is in our own hands. So it's an experience that really one cannot quite put into words, but something that I can promise you I shall never forget in my whole life.
Yes, most definitely, Your Eminence. And I just also wanted to now bring it to the next question in terms of before the election itself, when the doors closed at the Sistine Chapel, what would be some of the things that you discussed that you knew that you needed a leader with certain characteristics that will help steer the church, especially in the climate that it finds itself in? So what were some of the issues that you had to discuss that you knew that this is the kind of leader we need for today?
Thank you, and I'm sure that your viewers and your listeners are very aware that before the conclave could start, there were the general congregations of the cardinals, which included not only the cardinal electors, those who were able to go into the conclave, but all the cardinals were entitled to be at those general congregations, which were held daily for about 2 weeks before the conclave. And during that time we discussed very carefully the needs of the church throughout the world, what are the challenges that are facing the church in many different parts of the world and more generally, and of course also the needs of the world, and to see what sort of state the world was in, and to see what really is needed in terms of electing the successor of Peter. And that's what we were doing. Sometimes people might think it was the successor of Pope Francis. In a sense, it was, of course, but it really is the successor of St. Peter. And we become very conscious of that fact, that what we were doing goes right back to the beginnings of the Catholic Church, which was founded by Jesus Christ.
Most definitely. And with that said, would you maybe share with us, without revealing anything,
Yes.
in terms of what exactly, as cardinals, you knew that this is what the church needs, and the kind of leader we have is the kind of a person that will help us in terms of the dynamics that you are facing?
Yes, I think it was really a matter of discernment, as you say, of really reflecting on, because all these cardinals are people of tremendous ability. I, as a young cardinal and a young boy from Welkom in the Free State, I become very aware of the deep spirituality, the holiness of the cardinals that I've met and from around the world. And each cardinal, of course, like everybody, has got their own individual gifts and talents, their abilities. And so it really is the work of the Holy Spirit, because, as I've said before, as we went through the process of election, this name just emerged. It wasn't decided beforehand. It came out. It began to emerge. And then you suddenly realized, as I was thinking, here is a man who was born in the United States, so he's got that first world experience. He spent most of his ministry in South America, and therefore he's got the experience of what people would call the third world, or the developing world. Then he's also been working in Rome in the dicastery for bishops, and again you see that he's got that experience. He's got the experience of languages. He's got the experience of leading the Augustinian order. And suddenly, for me, it was all the boxes are being ticked. He's a person with this wide experience, a global view of the church, and it suddenly just seemed absolutely right as that name emerged, and he was eventually elected Pope.
Well, thank you so much. You have also answered the next question that I would have asked, in terms of the qualities that you saw and maybe your first impressions of him, in terms of maybe what it is that you knew. Maybe you were confident that this is what he would present to the world in terms of his qualities.
Yes, of course he was elevated as cardinal in the same year that I was, so we were the same batch, so to speak, although I didn't know him well, and I had spoken to him. I think that for me, my impression of him was just that he's a person of very, very deep spirituality, a very holy person, very steeped in the Augustinian charism, going right back to St. Augustine in the 4th century, and a person, I think, that's very humble and very open, very easy to speak to, and a person who listens very carefully to what people are saying.
I think for me, what will forever be in my memory is that facial expression that he had as he greeted the world with "Peace be with you" in the balcony. It was I can't find an adjective till this day to describe what it is, but it was that look of, yes, I accept, but I'm scared,
yes,
I'm humbled, I'm happy. Like, it was just a combination of everything. And now it brings me to my next question, out of curiosity. Would he have had the opportunity to say no? Meaning, do cardinals have the opportunity to say no, or are they obligated by the vow of obedience to say yes to this role?
I cannot say definitively that any cardinal has ever said no. I don't know that. Possibly there have been cases in history, but certainly it is true that after the election has taken place, he has to be formally asked, do you accept? And therefore he has the ability and the right to be able to say no. But of course, he accepts out of obedience, as I think Pope Benedict said when he was elected, in obedience to God and in obedience to the Church, I accept it. And one would expect that somebody who has been elected would accept it for the good of the Church.
Yes. And we're almost done with the interview, but you were among the celebrants of Mass when he celebrated his first Mass. How was that for you, celebrating with the Pope of the Church?
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful, of course, to be with the Pope on that first day after his election, and he spoke so beautifully and so simply. And if I can be a little bit choosing my own language in a sense, it was so lovely when he started off his homily in English, and it was so nice just to have an English Pope. Of course, he is the Pope of the whole world. He's very fluent in a number of different languages, but for me it was just so nice to hear our own language being spoken from a Pope. And, of course, I concelebrated at that Mass, but when I received my pallium at the end of June, I was able to be one of the 2 concelebrants at the main altar of St. Peter's, and that was an incredible experience as well, just to be with the Holy Father.
That is so beautiful, and it's amazing, and it is a humbling experience that we have this conversation from someone who's been part of the conclave. So I hope that our audience will really appreciate this conversation as we celebrate the first papal anniversary of His Holiness Pope Leo. Now, the last question I have for you, Baba, is in your capacity as the president of the SACBC,
yes.
If you could please maybe share a congratulatory message to the Holy Father.
Your Holiness, the people of Southern Africa, the 3 countries that make up our conference, Botswana, Eswatini, and South Africa, we love you very, very deeply. And we want to express our support of you in everything you do as the leader, not only of the Catholic Church, but a world leader and a religious leader. We know that you have come in for much criticism, that you have been lambasted from various quarters simply for preaching the message of peace. We stand by you in solidarity, and we promise that we too will work for peace among people. God bless you, Holy Father.
Thank you so much, Your Eminence, for this opportunity in this conversation. Yes, on behalf of SACBC, congratulations, Pope Leo, on your first papal anniversary.
Thank you very much, Kati.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to all your viewers and listeners. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Until the next video, take care, God bless, and I love you very much.